One of the most obvious signs of depression is being angry all the time. That's definitely you. Also, you may have been going through menopause for about 10 years. In fact, you may be the person with the longest known case of menopause. From losing a family member young to losing another while going through a shocking legal battle with someone he loved deeply, we've been entertained by Pawn Stars for decades, one of the most interesting reality TV shows ever. We've been able to enjoy what seems to be the perfect mix of history, entertainment, and business all in one show. First and foremost, we've enjoyed watching one of the show's co-founders, Rick Harrison, make history over the years. This is because he had worked in the shop for most of his life and has been able to help it grow and expand over the years, even though the store has been through some tough times. The show kept growing over the years, but that doesn't mean Rick didn't have to go through some tough times on his way up. It all began when Rick was born on March 22, 1965. The son of Richard Benjamin Harrison and Joanne Rue Harrison. He was the third of his parents' 4 children. Well, he learned something. You get more out of a book, Rick. You like to argue a lot. I don't like to argue. You guys turn it into arguments. No, you like to. Rick's first tragedy was the death of his oldest sister, Joanne Harrison. But that wasn't the end of a tough childhood for him and his family. As they got used to losing the oldest child, they soon had to get used to the fact that Rick started having seizures when he was 8 years old. To deal with this condition, Rick found that he liked to spend a lot of his free time reading books. According to him, this turned into a lifelong love of reading. At least he might be able to spend the rest of his life reading a series of books by John D. Fitzgerald called The Great Brain. Rick's love for these books, which were about the adventures of a 10-year-old Utah con artist named Tom D. Fitzgerald, lasted into adulthood. One would find that Rick still had other interests, whether they were fictional or not. For example, he loved physics and history. He was especially interested in the Royal Navy, especially in the late 1700s. He also seemed to like business, since he dropped out of Taft Middle School in the 10th grade to focus on selling fake Gucci bags for about $2,000 a week, which some of us watching this video think is a pretty good return. Maybe this was because Rick's parents' real estate business failed in 1981 and it was time for Rick and his siblings to start their own business. I just wasted a lot of money on 2 $500 bills that are only worth $1,000. It may or may not have been the best or worst time for Rick to have his first child. But by the time he was 17, he also had to deal with the fact that his girlfriend Kim was pregnant with his child. Rick decided to step up at the end of the day so that he could raise his first child, but he and Kim had to go through tragedy when they lost the baby to a miscarriage. Luckily, the couple was able to get back together. Soon after, on April 27, 1985, they welcomed Corey into the world. This would be the start of a lifelong relationship because Corey has become an important part of the Pawn Star team, and we're sure Ricky won't have it any other way. Over time, Corey gained a brother when his parents had Adam. Unfortunately, this would be the end of this young family because Rick and Kim decided in 1985 that it might be best for them to go their separate ways within a year. During this divorce, Rick met Tracy, who would later become his second wife. Tracy was now working for Harrison and was helping Rick raise his 2 boys. Tracy's influence must have been good for Rick's career because he was always able to pursue his interest in history. This soon paid off when his father opened a good coin shop in Las Vegas, and Rick was there to help make it a success. What more could you ask for a son thanks to his ability to give advice? Giving each item for sale in the store a bit of a historical background made them more appealing to customers who came in. Soon, though, Rick realized he needed to do a bit more to make ends meet now that he was raising a family. Soon he discovered that he was taking cars back from angry owners as a side job. Rick, Corey, what are your concerns? I just want to make sure it's a GT, and I need to know if I can get it back to beautiful condition without putting me in bankruptcy court. This seemed to support Rick and his growing family for about 5 years. After that time, Rick and his father had saved enough to move their business to a bigger and better location on Fremont Street. However, this wasn't long-lasting and may have been a bit too soon, as the family soon realized they had to move again because they had lost the lease on that property. Wanting to make the most of this time of change, Rick and his dad thought this might be the best time for them to open a pawn shop for a while, but they quickly realized that they couldn't because of a law from the 1950s that says only a certain number of pawn licenses can be issued. Apparently, the number of licenses issued depended on the population of the area, so Rick and his father knew they had to wait until the population of their city reached a total of 250,000. They applied for this license, and by 1989, they had it after some legal problems. Rick and Rick Jr. were finally happy to let customers into the gold and silver pawn shop. Once they were open, they decided to focus on selling rare sports items and historical items that they could find. You may be wondering why they call it a half eagle. Well, it's a $5 gold piece and the eagle was her standard gold coin, so that's what everyone used. It was a $10 gold piece, and the really cool thing is that you almost never see one with a C on the back of it. Over time, though, they learned that selling jewelry made them the most money. As a result, they quickly saw that their business was finally getting a name in Las Vegas. By the mid-2000s, they saw that they were lending millions of dollars each year, which helped them make hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest. It looked like business couldn't be better. Even though they were making a lot of money from selling jewelry, they were still happy to be able to make a lot of money from selling interesting sports items that buyers were interested in because of their interesting history. For example, take a look at this 2001 Super Bowl ring that they had for sale. Once sold, sales like this helped them become more popular, and soon Rick and his dad were working with the History Channel to make the Pawn Stars TV show we watch today. Brent Montgomery and Colby Gaines came up with the idea for the show back in 2008. They got the idea while traveling through Las Vegas and fell in love with some of the interesting pawn shops they saw. They thought that one of these shops could be the setting for one of the most interesting reality TV shows you'd see today. Just imagine if they based the show on a family-owned shop. They'd have to figure out how to store all the items they would need to film the show. They had to find this family-owned pawn shop first. Luckily for everyone, they found the Harrison family and their famous gold and silver pawn shop. At that point, the Harrison family was used to being in front of the cameras because they had been the subject of a PBS documentary a few years before, so they were ready for the cameras. Rick had also been thinking about wanting to make a show based on the Harrison family. Since the Harrison family had been running their shop for a while, the timing seemed ideal for everyone. Soon the Pawn Star show came on, letting us see how they made a living selling jewelry and old things. On the show, "What can I help you with?" I offered to sell my buttons which belonged to Marie Antoinette. Do you know much about Marie Antoinette? At this point, business was going well, especially since the shop had about 10,000 items in stock. Unfortunately, Rick lost his son Adam to an overdose of fentanyl and methamphetamine in January 2024. Adam had gone missing earlier that year, and Rick's landlord found him unresponsive and called the police. Soon after, the Harrison family learned of their family member's death. Rick then posted a picture of himself and his son on Instagram with a quote that said, "In these hard times, it's important to respect the family's wishes." That's why many people sent their condolences while letting the family mourn their tragic loss. He was never on the show, but his presence in the family will be missed. For now, Rick is trying to get over his loss by running for office in Nevada. He might even be able to run for U.S. Senator in 2024. He was also inducted into the Kentucky Colonel, which is the highest honor given by the state of Kentucky. Let's hope that this will help him get over the many tragedies he had been through, like losing a family member young and another while going through a shocking court case with someone he loved very much. This is the heartbreaking story of Rick Harrison from Pawn Stars.